An economic outlook for the 50 states put together by the American Legislative Exchange Council may surprise you. I'm joined by Jonathan Williams, a vice president at the organization, to talk about those results. Jonathan, welcome. I want to start right away with a map of the U.S. in which we've highlighted the top 10 states in terms of their economic outlook. Utah is number one. What's behind that, and why are we seeing several states in the Midwest with some high rankings?
Well, Utah has been number one actually for all 8 editions of Rich States, Poor States that we've put together. And really their secret to success is pretty simple. It's keeping taxes reasonable, keeping regulations under control, creating a solid business climate for new investment. And they've also done something that was well ahead of the curve for many states, that is cap their unfunded pension liabilities. And that's a huge problem for states across the country. Utah luckily got ahead of that problem and took care of it years ago. And they've set themselves up, I think, for very good success in terms of job creation and economic growth going forward.
Why in general do we see such disparities from state to state?
Well, that's not a bad thing. We say, the states are the 50 laboratories of democracy, and may the best man win in this competition for job creation and human capital. Over the last 15 years, we've seen 43 million Americans move from one state to another, 1/7 of our population as a country, which is amazing. They've taken $2 trillion of wealth with them from one state to another. And so that all being said, the states that get it right when it comes to competitiveness are realizing the benefits. The states that get it wrong are in the anti-competitive category, like New York, are seeing the outflow of capital. And so I think that competition, though, is healthy, and it's good that states are competing, and may the best man win.
So let's talk about some winners and losers. Which state dropped the most? Which state improved the most?
So my home state of Michigan unfortunately dropped the most this year, and that is their inaction on tax reductions as well as a minimum wage increase has put the cost of doing business in Michigan up this year. They had seen some great gains with right to work and some tax cuts in the last few years, but they did drop the most spots of any state this year. On the positive side, we saw Kentucky and Illinois really lead the way, with workers' compensation reform being the driver in Kentucky and tax cuts in Illinois. The first time that Illinois has been out of the bottom 10, which is small improvements, but still very important improvements for the land of Lincoln.
You mentioned New York earlier. What's the problem with New York?
Well, where do I start? The issue with New York is just, it seems that over time New York has taken a policy of having high taxes on everybody and playing favorites by picking winners and losers through the tax code and giving away special tax breaks. We're all familiar with the national ad campaign that's being run to say, come and do business in New York for tax-free for 10 years, but only if you meet all the criteria that New York puts out. Unfortunately, they're keeping high tax rates on everybody else. That's not a favorite of state government, and that's been a huge factor in making New York 50th out of 50 in our index.
You look at 15 different policy variables. What's the one policy that hurts most states?
I think if you had to narrow one down, it would be tax rates on capital, on individual income taxes. There are 9 states across America that do not tax personal income wages, and those 9 states are growing at a tremendous clip. In fact, the job creation in the states without personal income taxes is 110% greater than the states like New York with the highest income tax rate. So we're seeing these laboratories of democracy work, and we're seeing that states that do not tax personal income are states that are winning in this race for capital. I think that's the #1 most important factor in our index.
Do you consider some of the economic variables in each state? For instance, we've seen many states benefit from the U.S. oil boom. Others, of course, if there's no oil or gas in the ground, can't benefit. So do you take some of those factors into consideration?
So, right. I mean, oil has been a huge factor in many states, certainly Texas and North Dakota and Alaska. Now, unfortunately, they're going to realize the downside of falling oil prices, and we'll see how they react to that. We tend to focus in our index in Rich States, Poor States on factors that legislators can actually control every year based on policy variables instead of what they're blessed with or not based on natural resources or the kind of weather they have or access to ports. Those are things that legislators many times obviously have no control over. We focus on things like tax rates and regulations and labor policies that are easy levers for policymakers to control and improve their states with.
Jonathan Williams, thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I'm Rhonda Schaffler for The Street.